We're going to talk about Cristiano Ronaldo now, who has been breaking all records in the Saudi League, and as modest as ever, he says, I don't follow the records follow me.
Yeah, nice.
Was his pronouncement on that. So let's find out a bit more about that now. Ben Jacobs keeps a close eye on matters in the world of Saudi football. Good afternoon, Ben.
Hello, Ben.
Afternoon, guys. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yes, I mean, give us the numbers. I mean, it's pretty prolific, as you can imagine.
35 in the Saudi Pro League, and that's a record by one. And Ronaldo's now been top scorer in 4 different major leagues in his career. And we know he's approaching 40, and the contract that he has at Al Nassr expires in 2025. But there's an openness from all parties to extend, which is quite significant because should Ronaldo still be playing heading into 2026, who's to say that he won't want to go off and play in the World Cup in 2026 as well? I'm sure he'll look at what Messi did in the Middle East, winning a World Cup with a fairy tale. And maybe, depending on how things go at the Euros, he might think that that's his fairy tale ending as well, and Saudi can play a part in it.
Does he? I take it he takes all the penalties and the free kicks. He insists. Does he? It must be hard to get the ball off him at times, I would think.
Yes, it is. He's the penalty taker, the free kick taker, the captain. He's the everything. So, of course, it's a lot easier to score a bunch of goals. But it's not only Ronaldo. Alexander Mitrovic has pretty much got a goal in every game. So there has been a little bit of competition, but it just shows you to be that age and to still be in excellent physical condition. He's very capable of scoring from open play as well, but there has been double figures of penalties to contribute to that 35 as well. There's been a few hat-tricks in there too, but he's the only male footballer in these 5 major leagues that he's played to have topped the scoring charts in 4 of them.
Wow.
And do his teammates seem to like him? Do they sort of rally round
Probably
him?
like
Are
the win bonuses.
Celebrating when he's scoring? You know, is he popular?
In a weird way, he's kind of popular, as you'd expect, with the Al Nassr fans and for the branding and the wider league and everything that extends beyond that. There's a lot of people that do his celebration. People are learning off him. He apparently speaks a few basic words of Arabic as well. But at the same time, there's a vilification of Ronaldo that we've never seen before. And the rivalry that used to be Messi versus Ronaldo, that was, of course, fearsome, but we were gripped by both of them. There's a lot now that don't support Al Nassr in Saudi Arabia that goad Ronaldo, that chant the name Messi, that almost at times make fun of him and irk him if he's not doing well, if he misses, or even when he scores. They wait around afterwards and they chant Messi's name. And you'd think that in Saudi Arabia, they wouldn't almost want to be saying, you're in Saudi and Messi's won the World Cup, because the whole point is this league is growing. But many of the fans almost self-depreciating in many ways, and they're not afraid to give it to Ronaldo and taunt him with the name Lionel Messi.
Are there any hatchet men out there? I mean, the sort of Ron Harris, Terry Hurlock equivalents who like want
studs up,
like Goycochea. Somebody wants a trophy from kicking Ronaldo up in the air.
It's a slightly slower pace and you don't really get stuck in on a slippery, muddy, wet surface, although it's very humid at the beginning of the season, but the pitches are very manicured. It's a slower pace and Ronaldo gets the opportunity to show his technical skill set for sure. But there's 1 or 2 what you would either call journeyman players or more aggressive types. Max Power is one at Al Qadsiya, who are the Aramco club that have just got promoted. So he'll be up against Cristiano Ronaldo next season. Jack Hendry is another at Steven Gerrard's Al Ittifaq, who's a proper no-nonsense defender. And again, he slides in. But as Henderson found and Hendry found, because I spoke to both of them when I was in Dammam at the beginning of the season, it was so sticky in those early few days that if you really went in, if you overcommitted, then it's quite hard to recover and you find yourself either needing a little bit of oxygen or being taken off after about an hour. So I think the foreigners in particular of that mould tend to be a bit more conservative to make sure that they've got the stamina to see out the whole game.
Now, away from Saudi, there was a ruling in a Madrid commercial court yesterday around the original Super League proposal, which we all know collapsed within 48 hours. And there's a bit of there's sort of 2 schools of thought. I've read certain things where people are saying this will embolden people to come back with a new Super League proposal, and others saying it's made no difference. They did actually say in the court that FIFA and UEFA had abused their dominant position at the time and prevented free competition. So should we be afraid, Ben? Should we expect another tilt at a European Super League based on what they said yesterday?
Well, this was a Madrid commercial court, and A22, the promoters of the Super League, claimed victory because one of the conclusions was that UEFA and FIFA have this dominant position of power. In other words, they're anti-competitive due to the fact that there's a pre-authorization needed for any third-party tournaments. So somebody like the Super League has to go to the FIFA and UEFA execs in order to get permission to start their tournament. And this case effectively says that's anti-competitive and allows, in theory, therefore, third parties like the Super League to proceed. The downside for the Super League is two things. One, it can be appealed, so we have to wait and see whether or not it changes an appeal. And two, it doesn't directly endorse the Super League, and UEFA were very quick to point this out, that the Super League project, based upon this court case, is in its abandoned form. So there's no endorsement of the closed group Super League. There's only a general point that the pre-authorization system that UEFA and FIFA have is anti-competitive if it doesn't allow third parties to have their own spin-offs. So it does provide a legal framework for a form of Super League to materialise, but we're a long way from seeing that in practice.
I mean, the Premier League clubs decided off the back of Super League, the big six, if you will, all said that, you know, there'd be a 35-point penalty if any of them was part of a breakaway league. But if everybody else in Europe, all the big clubs in Europe broke away and their intention was to sort of dip out, they would do it anyway. They wouldn't care about 35 points with the riches that were on offer. So that's always a slight concern, Ben, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think the big thing that this case sets precedent for is to stop that threat. And as long as there's no ability to punish or deduct just because a team or a series of teams wants to go and play in a European Super League, it removes the threat. And then the organisers say more teams will come forwards. Obviously, because of the election and the football regulator, the regulator had promised there'd be no Super Leagues. If that is delayed or doesn't materialise, then maybe Premier League clubs will be tempted as well. So it's about removing any legal barriers or punishment barriers, and then the Super League feel that they can really get started. But the reality is very different, because these are the same people at midnight that blindsided everybody. So they don't just have to have a legal mechanism to start a league, they have to win back everyone's trust, and that includes the clubs.
Good stuff, Ben. Good to talk to you as always. Thanks very much.
Cheers, guys.
Ben Jacobs there on matters Saudi and more. We did ask you.
Is it a major league, the Saudi league?
No, it's not. Of course it's not.
I can't call it a major league.
I mean, no, it's not. I mean, really,
it's scoring goals.
Would Ronaldo be scoring that much? I mean, well, you write him off at your peril. If he was still in the Premier League, would he be scoring goals like that? I don't know.
Might be scoring 15, 10.
Yeah.
I don't know if his legs have gone, but to play at that, at what sort of level, But
it's definitely going to extend his career.
He should have dropped down the leagues in.
You would like to have seen him just drop down the pyramid
League One, League Two, then just keep going.
Bromley's big signing.
Exactly,
Bromley. Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Great. That would have been great. A tour of all, played for like 18 clubs.
Yeah,
like Steve Claridge.
Share the love. Yeah, like Steve. Eric Ten Hag, we couldn't get a head around where he's gone. We know he's on holiday. We couldn't get a head around where he's gone on holiday. Geordie in Northwood likes to imagine him in a charity shop in Devon, thumbing his way through the oversized jacket section.
Oh, that's a nice idea. Yeah,
I could see him doing that. Something quite low key.
Enjoy that. Yeah.
Matt in Bermondsey says Eric is definitely requiring some peace and quiet after the season he's had. So he says, a portage holiday, canoe and trek in the Algonquin National Park in Ontario. It's very specific. He is camping out, hanging his food in a tree away from bears and listening to the coyotes howl at night.
That's the sort of holiday I dream of. That's the sort of documentary I will watch if I'm on my own.
Yeah, you'll watch that.
If I'm sat on my own and no one's coming home, I will put on the most boring wild camping documentary I can find. Oh,
do you do a lot of wild camping?
I love it.
This sounds right up your street.
Bought all the stuff during lockdown, never actually been.
I thought, how does Matt in Bermondsey know all about this? But he used to live in Ontario, so that's right. And do a lot of wild camping.
Find some wild stuff in Bermondsey.
You probably do find some wild stuff in Bermondsey. You probably wouldn't want to camp, though, would you, really? So, if you've got any, let your imagination run wild. What is Eric doing for his holidays? Talksport.com, text 81089, tweet TSH and J.
Paul Hawksby and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons 1 till 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.